Hi, everyone. Welcome to our show. It's time to get back up. I'm your host, Chomba, and my co host is Kangwa. Today, we have a very special guest, Pastor Ben Chifenga. Welcome to the show.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me, Chomba, and God bless every viewer that is connected and following right now. And I'm excited to be here.
Amen.
Sure.
Amen.
Today, we are talking about drugs and relationships. Kangwa, start the ball rolling.
Okay. Thank you very much. Welcome once more.
Thank you, Kangwa. I appreciate.
To begin the discussion, Pastor.
Yeah.
Is there a relationship between drugs and relationships?
There should be a relationship between the two.
Mhm.
Um, drugs have to do with an addiction.
Okay.
Addictions primarily impair judgment.
Oh, yeah.
Addictions reduce the capacity to perform in terms of perception,
Okay.
in terms of projection,
Uh-huh.
and in terms of literally responsibility.
Oh, yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
anything that contends or limits your capacity is something that you need to take into consideration. So there is a relationship between the two because one is an addiction, and relationships do not require addictions in order to thrive.
Interesting. Interesting. So relationships and addictions do not work well together.
Never. They never work well together because they are defiant
Okay.
and they are contradicting in
Mm.
terms of purpose, in terms of essence.
Okay.
And because they pull each other apart,
Mm-hmm.
they shouldn't be correlated,
Mhm.
and they should never at any point converge. Yeah.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Interesting. Very good. So, in your experience, in your years of evangelism and pastoring,
Mhm.
have you ever come across a situation where a young lady or a young man has found themselves abusing drugs or developing an addiction because of their partner or their choice of partner?
Well, it normally sets in as an excuse,
Okay.
but it shouldn't be a factor at all if you look at it in the perspective of personal responsibility. But I have come across so many people
Mm.
who probably have strayed and have indulged in drugs to find solace
Mm.
Okay.
because probably they feel forsaken, they feel abandoned, and they feel rejected.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's after the relationship breaks, eh?
Sometimes it's after the breaking of a relationship. Sometimes it's for married people, even married people, when they feel forgotten, when they feel, overlooked.
Mm.
Sometimes they seek for solace in drugs and especially addiction with alcohol.
Oh no. Oh no. Dangerous. Chomba.
So, Pastor, is there anything or are there any programs that the church is doing to help curb or prevent the use or abuse of drugs?
So many programs, and these programs are bordered on two settings. One has to do with information,
Mm-hmm.
the other has to do with transformation. So we undertake programs that promulgate information, information that challenges people to change or to steer clear of drugs, information that conscientizes on the effects of drugs, the results of drugs, and generally their effects on society. So we do give information from the biblical perspective, from the psychological perspective, and from a social perspective. We also undertake transformative programs for those that are addicted and for those that could have consumed the drugs for a long time. So there are programs that we set in place and we set in motion to help them recollect and get refurbished.
Okay. Okay. Just an addition. So, if a youth comes to you with a problem of drugs, um, would you take them? Would you report them rather?
Um, it depends with the circumstance. If they come over to me confessing crime,
Mm-hmm.
I may advise them to, if the crime is hideous,
Mm-hmm.
if the crime has made them a threat to society,
Mm-hmm.
and if the crime defines them as someone who really needs incarceration
yeah.
for refurbishment, then we can report them. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
it's not all the time that you need a drug addict reported to the police. I'll give
Yeah.
you an example.
Mm-hmm.
Few months ago, I was inside my house, and suddenly I heard a scream
Mm-hmm.
from my neighbors. The boys had caught a young man trying to trespass around my premise.
Mm-hmm.
So he got him and called on me. I came out. We discovered he had drugs in his pockets,
Mm-hmm.
and he was suspected of trying to sneak in on one of the houses. We reported him at the police, and the police took him in.
Mm-hmm.
2 days later, I went back to the police. I conversed with the officer in charge from Matero Police. You remember, if you ever watched this program. And, I guided him. I thought the young man needed some form of counseling. He needed some refurbishment rather than just incarceration. So we agreed and put him on a counseling session right within the police station. They have departments that look into that.
Mm-hmm.
We worked together. We put him on counseling for 3 months. And instead of letting him rot in prison, we helped him get transformed and get reintegrated back to society.
Wow.
Mm.
Great. That's awesome.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Powerful. You
Okay.
know,
Mhm.
Pastor, it's difficult
Mhm.
as youths to encourage our friends, let's say those who are struggling with substance abuse,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
from a biblical point of view,
Sure.
because we have few or maybe no verses which touch.
Yeah. Or
Drugs.
drugs.
Directly, and
Yes.
thou shalt
yeah.
not take heroin.
Yeah.
You don't-
exactly.
Yeah. Yes.
Quite interesting. On face value, it looks like we don't have direct instructions and commands on drugs.
Okay.
And so every time you approach somebody who is consumed with the addiction, they're always defiant.
Mm-hmm.
But there are many biblical examples. And the very most homely and close to home example you can draw is that of the prodigal son. When
Okay.
you read the story of the prodigal son, the Bible describes the young man as one who got adrifted in raucous living or prodigal living.
Mhm.
Prodigal living, when you look at it from the original Greek connotation, you realize that it talks about indulgence in youthful lusts.
Okay.
And youthful
Okay.
lusts have to do with sexual immorality, alcohol abuse, and generally drug abuse. So the young man had gone literally into drug abuse
Okay.
and many other life activities bordered on youthful lust. So that's a very good example because it shows
Okay.
you how he got derailed, how he got destroyed, how he got literally dismembered in his mind, and how he messed up his own destiny till he came to his senses and returned,
Mhm.
to the right instruction and the right place.
Oh wow. Oh wow. Oh wow. Trump,
That's
have you
great.
ever thought of that?
No, I've
Even me.
actually, the Bible always has something new. You can
Mhm.
read a passage so many times, but whenever you read it, there's always something new to learn.
Sure,
That's true.
sure,
That's true.
sure.
So, Pastor, in your view, what would you advise the youths in order for them to avoid drug abuse? What advice would you like to give them?
Very essential question you've raised there, Chomba. First things first, a lot of young people that go into drugs. By the way, when I was a teenager, I abused drugs.
Oh,
I abused marijuana when I was a teen.
okay.
I abused alcohol a lot
Uh,
between the age of
uh.
15 and 19.
Okay.
Heavily, especially alcohol.
And sorry, can
And-
I just
and-
ask
and-
what caused you to
I'll
delve
come
into
to that,
that?
actually.
Okay.
This is why I've mentioned it.
Okay.
One of the first things you need to realize about people who abuse drugs is sometimes they're not even too sure why they're doing it. And outwardly, they'll look like they're having fun and they're excited, but inwardly, they're torn apart.
Mm-hmm.
They feel distressed and they're never happy about themselves. That I can assure you.
Okay.
And so they're not too sure why they're into it.
Mm-hmm.
But my experience of indulging in alcohol and marijuana, I must qualify. I don't want to look like tasted every drug.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And also my many years, Chomba, I've dealt with young people for over 20 years.
Okay.
My many years of dealing with young people and addicts is that apart from looking for a stimuli, a stimulant, for excitement. Young people indulge in drugs for 4 reasons.
Okay.
First, they are looking for approval.
Okay.
They're not too sure of their identity.
Okay.
And when you have a conflict of identity, a confusion with personal identity, you normally drift into extremes.
Okay.
So they're trying to find approval from society, especially beginning with their own parents, their own families. This is why families must be careful with every single family member
Okay.
when it comes to appraising and confirming their identity. So when they are searching for approval of who they are, and they can't find it as quickly as they wish, or from people they thought should support them, stand with them, and agree with them, they drift into drugs.
Okay.
The second reason is a search for like association. They look out for association that agrees with them,
Okay.
association that adopts them, association that accommodates them. So because they are looking for like, if I was writing, there'll be a dash,
Yeah.
hyphen,
Yeah.
like association, because they are seeking for like association, and they can't find it among people they look up to, people that they find fascinating. Once they have a feeling of rejection with people that they find fascinating and people they look up to as role models, they drift into extremes of association, and they go among people that quickly accept them. And unfortunately, sometimes it's those that indulge.
Okay.
The third reason is looking for acceptance.
Okay.
They want to be accepted in terms of how they are, whether it's physically, psychologically, and socially. Whatever it is that they've allowed to use as a yardstick to define themselves, to describe who they are. If they don't find confirmation, they begin to quickly seek for acceptance among the peers. If it fails with the parents, if it fails with the church, which it does sometimes, you'll be shocked. They run to peers, and sometimes it's the peers that accept them are peers that are already indulging in drugs. And once they feel accepted, they want to fit in. So they begin to do whatever they're doing. The last one is affection.
Okay.
When they're looking for affection and attention, they tend to, unfortunately, find it elusive among people that need to give it to them from home, from church, from any setting of society. Alas, they find it among drug addicts, colleagues that are addicted, and these seem to quickly give them attention, love, affection, and to fit in, to stay there, they do what they're doing. They say, if you can't beat them, join them.
Oh, no.
So you have to understand these reasons that drift a lot of young people, even adults,
Okay.
into drug addiction. If it's not looking for a stimuli, it's a search for attention, it's a search for affection, it's a search for association, it's a search for approval.
Okay.
So what do? We tell them that all these things they are looking for are not virtues that are found in drugs. Actually, drugs tarnish your image.
Okay.
They completely tarnish your self-vision, your self-esteem, your self-perception, your self-concept is completely eroded. You actually get worse and get more lost in drugs. If you were lost before you got into the drugs, you'll be more lost when you get into them.
Yeah.
So the best is to not necessarily look into yourself. You look to God who created you. The first step of self-discovery is discovering God. When you discover God, you discover yourself. And once you discover yourself, you are sure of your self-identity. You are sure of your self-esteem. You are sure of your self-vision. You are sure of your self-concept. And you are sure, therefore, of your destiny. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Sure.
Yeah, men of power, men of wisdom.
Mm.
No, we are really blessed and we are learning a lot.
Thank you.
Um,
Praise the Lord.
Yeah, we also wanted to find out, Pastor. There's a young lady out there watching this who's in a relationship with a young man or an older man who's got an alcohol or drug abuse problem.
Yeah.
What would you say to such a one?
Well, one of the most common mistakes
Okay.
young people make is to believe that You can get involved with anyone regardless of their conduct or their character,
Mhm.
as long as you have the persuasion that you can change them.
Okay.
One of the things to avoid is that path, and that I call it a disillusion.
Okay.
Because the only person you can help change is yourself. You can't change the next person.
Mhm.
So we have to dispel an idea that no, he will change.
Mhm.
There are a lot of recently we were just getting statistics of divorces that we've been recording in the nation
Mhm.
that were recorded for of the previous year. They're
Uh-huh.
talking about 22,000 wishing to be divorced. I've always said that people divorce even before they get married because what causes it is the choice you make.
Uh-huh.
And if you choose somebody who is indulging in drugs, not necessarily to reject them and to treat them as outcasts. But when it comes to marriage, you're talking about a lifetime commitment
Oh, yeah.
that requires sobriety
Yeah.
and it requires sanity.
Mhm.
It requires, transparency and
Oh, yeah.
responsibility.
Yeah.
True. True.
And
true.
these things come with a lot of personal commitment,
Mm.
bordering on that, not necessarily to treat people who are addicted as outcasts. Bordering on that, young people should be careful, or rather walk away from the red light when it shows,
Yeah.
and take
Yeah.
chances that no, he will change. It has never worked.
Yeah.
Well, it has worked for few who are lucky, but it just outrightly and ultimately just never works well. It gets worse when you
Very
move on.
good,
So walk
yeah.
away when the iron is still hot. Strike it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Oh wow. Oh wow.
So, Pastor, in conclusion, do you feel like there is more that the church can do? And what advice do you have for the ladies out there who are broken, who feel they cannot change, they are too addicted to drugs? What advice would you like to give them?
Good questions, Chomba. For the church, there's more we can do. We can do better.
Okay.
What we need to avoid, my advice to the church is let's avoid self seeking. There's too much self seeking from the pulpit.
Okay.
Church leaders have become too obsessed with themselves, too obsessed with their identity, too obsessed with fame, too obsessed with popularity, even too obsessed with wealth. And that's unfortunate. And so we've forgotten that our calling must be centered on sacrifice,
Yes.
sacrificial service. It's about the next person.
Yeah.
Let's walk in love and ensure that we propagate and proclaim the gospel, leading people to Christ by leading them to repentance and faith.
Oh, yeah.
Very essential. And planning programs that will, enhance the accommodating of such people, providing them access to counseling and the help they need. The church is not a museum for the righteous. The church is a hospital for the sick,
Amen.
Yes.
the spiritually sick,
Uh-huh.
like the
Wonderful.
addicts. For those that are broken, there's always hope. As long as you are still living, I've always said the word let is a word you find in the graveyard. As long as you are living, there's still hope for tomorrow.
Wonderful.
It's about decision.
Mm.
Stop blaming the next person or anyone for where you are
Mhm.
and start taking personal responsibility.
Mm.
Everyone is where we are because of our personal choices,
Yes.
regardless of the circumstances of life we faced and the trials life has thrown against us. It's not about the circumstances or the trials, it's about your personal decision and your focus on your life. You can decide right and change your life. Everyone that is broken must remember, as long as you live, there's hope. And remember, you're very important and the world needs you.
Awesome.
Powerful.
Thank you so much, Pastor. Viewers, we'll be right back. Let's take a short break. Welcome back, everyone. We are now joined by two special guests, Mr. Matthias Kamanga from Drug Enforcement Commission. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be here.
And Dr. Oscar Mulowe. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Matthias Kamanga, kindly tell us more about yourself.
Well, my name is Matthias Kamanga, as introduced. I'm currently working for the Drug Enforcement Commission, where I've been the past 18 years, and I'm currently serving as the Public Relations Officer of the institution.
Oh, wow. Wow. Welcome, sir. Oscar,
Uh,
kindly tell us more about yourself.
So I'm a medical doctor, currently working at UTH.
Kangwa, start the ball rolling.
Get the ball rolling. Oh, yes. Today we're looking at drugs and their relation to relationships. Mr. Kamanga, what's the current picture of drug abuse in Zambia? And are women or girls also involved in this, or it's still a male thing?
Thank you. The picture is very bad
Okay.
right across the country
Mhm.
because the numbers of people that are abusing drugs is actually going higher
Hmm.
instead of reducing.
Oh, no.
Mhm.
Despite the many efforts that we've been doing in arresting people, and I know many people out there know us for arresting. When they hear DEC, they know that you're going to be arrested.
Mhm.
But despite the number of people that we are arresting,
Mhm.
the numbers are actually going higher, and it is an unfortunate thing that is happening in our communities.
Mhm.
With regard to women being involved, it is actually like there is competition between the two genders where women also are coming up in great numbers
Oh, no.
in issues of drug abuse, which actually should not be a norm as we are known as Zambians. That is
Mm.
something that is a strange thing to many of us.
Mm.
Mm,
Mm.
mm, 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 mm. Doctor,
Yes.
in regard to drug abuse, I hear people are now taking accustomed to taking even cough syrup and abusing it. How true is that?
Well, I do not have the statistics, but it is becoming a trend, especially I think the pharmaceuticals would bear witness to say that people are buying these quite often.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
they're running out of stock
Eh.
more than anticipated, actually.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's something that is actually alarming. Yeah, so over-the-counter drugs are also becoming a challenge as we speak, actually.
Mr. Matthias Kamanga, is there any link between drug abuse and relationships from your experience? Have you encountered situations where women have started to abuse drugs because of failed relationships?
Yes. If you define the word abuse, it's a combination of two words:
Okay.
abnormal use,
Okay.
abnormal and usage. So it's where somebody takes something that is supposed to be used correctly,
Mhm.
if so to say, and then they begin to abuse it. They begin to abnormally use that particular substance, and so it becomes abnormal use.
Okay.
And so when it comes to relationships,
Mhm.
both genders are involved in drug abuse for various reasons.
Mhm.
Let me start with the females in a relationship.
Okay.
There is what women generally are calling, they want their bodies to be warm.
Okay.
And in wanting their bodies to be warm,
Mhm.
they actually they actually go into drug abuse. They go into taking substances that sometimes are harmful to their bodies in them trying to fit in with pleasing a man, sexually pleasing somebody, and things like that.
Mhm.
And so there is one drug that has been very common, especially of late, which is Nsunko.
Okay.
Now, Sunko is supposed to be normal tobacco, which is ground tobacco, and people are supposed to sniff it and the like.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, what we have discovered in our work is that it's being mixed with cannabis or marijuana. It's
Okay.
being mixed with other substances such as fertilizer, unfortunately. And instead of it being sniffed, it's even being inserted in the private parts of ladies, just in the quest of them trying to make their bodies warm and the
Warm.
like. And so you find very well educated women going to offices, working for banks, working for these institutions,
Mhm.
are actually carrying this insunko in their bags in the quest for them to do that.
Mhm.
But when it comes to men also, there's been a myth to say when you have smoked some marijuana, then you're going to be stronger in bed.
Okay.
And so there are even other substances, I think Doc may touch on them,
Mhm.
that are they are sexual boosters and the like. And so you find instead of somebody just going naturally the way they are, they'll try to enhance their performance by abusing drugs. And unfortunately, some of these drugs are illegal drugs. And as a result, they find themselves being addicted, they find themselves being arrested, they find themselves in various troubles that relate to these particular issues. And so, yes, there's a relationship between drug abuse and relationships, and one has to consciously look at it, look at preventing drug abuse in their relationship and the things that they do around them.
Wonderful. Doctor, kindly tell us, what is drug addiction and what are the causes of that? What really happens to the body? Why do people fail to stop abusing drugs?
As I begin, I would love to explain or to really briefly state what a drug is. A drug is simply any substance that alters or changes the functionality of your body. Okay? And next, let's look at addiction. What is the pathophysiology of addiction, or how does an addiction come about? I gave an example to say that once you find yourself in a merry-go-round, to keep stability, you must remain on the merry-go-round.
Oh, yeah.
And so from the outside, it looks easy. Someone should just jump off.
Yeah.
But you know what happens when someone jumps off? What happens?
They'll fall down and
They'll be dizzy.
yeah.
So now keep that example even as we go along. So imagine someone is into alcohol abuse. When they come out of it, they'll be dizzy.
It'll be this.
Now, that dizziness will be explained as we go on. So really what happens is that whenever we encounter any activity that is pleasurable, let's say eating, you love eating ice cream, you go maybe...
Like someone likes mangoes here.
yeah. mangoes. So
Oh,
what
yeah.
it does is that your brain, there's a midsection of your brain produces a substance. It's called dopamine.
Okay.
Don't worry about what it does and the like, but it's called dopamine. So it's produced by a certain area of the brain called the VTA, ventral tegmental area. So what it does, the dopamine is in the layman's language is your feel good hormone.
Okay.
When something is pleasurable, that hormone is released in large quantity.
Okay.
Okay. So now what your body does is that hormone goes to certain parts of your brain.
Okay.
So there's a certain part that keeps the pleasurable effect, and there's a certain part that keeps memory of that pleasurable effect and how to obtain that pleasurable effect.
Oh.
So now you have something that keeps a record that this thing is pleasurable, and something that keeps memory that this thing is pleasurable and how to obtain it.
Okay. Okay.
So now what happens that when the more you use that thing, because anything pleasurable want to repeat it, the more you
Yeah.
use it, the more your body gets accustomed to it. So you're going to reach a point where you need more of that substance to have the same effect.
Okay. Okay.
So the same quantity is no longer enough.
The same quantity is not. Someone says the highest feeling you ever go in use of drugs is the first dose
Okay.
that you use.
Okay.
And each time you're trying to reach the first high, you need more of it.
Okay. Okay.
So now what happens when someone wants to say, okay, no, I want to stop this, because there will be other effects that will be coming along. They want to let go. That's where the dizziness comes in. Because when they want to let go, there is a bad effect that comes along with it again.
Okay.
And so the way the body does that, when there's a bad event, that hormone again is
Relieved.
released. So now you have another area which remembers there's a bad effect. Memory of it is kept, and how to avoid it. So how to avoid it is not to stop taking that drug. So someone continues
Okay.
both for the
okay.
good pleasure and for the bad effect of stopping it. So that is a vicious cycle.
It's a vicious cycle.
Maybe just to add to what he's saying, when he talks about dizziness, it doesn't mean literally somebody feels dizzy like the way a drunk person will feel and will go staggering. No,
Yeah.
these are withdrawal symptoms
Okay.
where a person who has not taken a drug, who is accustomed to taking this drug, begins to feel sometimes aching of the bones of the joints and the like because they've not taken a drug. Now, I think some of the effects are underestimated by the people out there because sometimes we've not really encountered someone who is addicted.
Okay.
From our experience,
Mm.
not too long ago, we had a small child, an 11-year-old girl, who had gone missing from home for 5 nights.
Oh no.
When she was found, she was high on drugs and unconscious.
Mm.
Brought to the office. Now, you can imagine, 11-year-old girl missing for 5 nights, brought to the office unconscious. For us, it was a medical attention. We had to seek medical attention from medical experts like himself. We had to take her in. And after they resuscitated her and she came back to consciousness, the problem was now the withdrawal symptoms started, where she
Okay.
started crying because her body was aching. So when he talks about dizziness that comes as a result of you coming
Jumping
off
off the
from the
merry-go-round.
merry-go-round,
Yeah.
it's not, that is a good example, but it's not
Okay.
necessarily an issue of you having dizziness. It's an issue of you having what are called withdrawal symptoms.
Symptoms,
And these
okay.
symptoms are actually the pains that one experiences as a result of them not taking a drug. That's the reason why, if somebody hasn't taken that particular drug, they will do anything to try and get to that drug. They'll go into the house, they'll get your television,
Oh no.
which costs 7,000, 15,000, and they'll sell it for 200 kwacha.
Eh.
Why? Because they want that pleasurable feeling for them to get back to the normalcy or the what has now become a normal way of them
life.
feeling. And that is why addiction is something that is dangerous. It's something that every one of us must never ever look forward to. It is something that is difficult for you to be able to come out of that situation.
We're really learning.
Yeah.
So there's a merry-go-round and there's dizziness, which is now withdrawal effects. Which brings me to my next question, which can be answered by both of you. Mr. Kamanga and Doc, you'll jump in later. How easy is it for someone to stop taking drugs? Because if you're saying there's withdrawal effects, there's all that dizziness, is it actually possible, should be the question.
To stop. And in addition, what help do you give to such people?
Okay. As a commission, we've got 3 things that we do in terms of us assisting those that are on drugs.
Okay.
There is the prevention aspect.
Uh-huh.
Prevention is for those that are watching.
Okay.
Please, if you are not yet into drugs, do not even attempt to go into drug abuse.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I plead I plead with you by the mercies of God, to borrow the words of Pastor who
Go
was here
deeper,
just
go
now.
deeper.
Please don't get yourself into drugs. So there is a prevention aspect where we go out to churches, we go out to schools, we go out to various groupings and teach them on the issues, the dangers of drug abuse. But then there is the treatment for those that may have started. Unfortunately, you find yourself, you're already into it. There is now the aspect of us offering counseling services.
Okay.
These services are free of charge, and I know as DEC we are known for arresting, but when you come seeking for help,
Yeah.
we will not arrest you. We will
Awesome.
treat you as somebody that needs
Help.
And so, if you have a child who is hooked on drugs or your spouse is hooked on drugs, please bring them through. We have offices right across the country. You get the assistance that you need. The third thing, which is in the law, is the issue of rehabilitation.
Okay.
Now, rehabilitation is what happens to those that are addicted to drugs.
Okay.
It's a process where you most times have to take in someone, accommodate them somewhere, and the medical people assist them in detoxing them to make sure that they are detoxicated. Is that the word, Doc?
Detoxified.
Yes. It's really like nutrifying or removing the drug that is flowing in the system. I don't know, I think he can explain it better. But for you to find healing from the addiction.
Oh, yeah.
Now, at the moment in Zambia, the government does not have rehab facilities unless I'm not aware about it.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a few helps here and there. Like at UTH, there's Clinic 6 where they can assist.
Okay.
Chinama also offers some form of assistance, but it is not a rehab center.
Mm-hmm.
The rehab centers that we have are private.
Okay.
And for you to have your person or child who is addicted stay there per month, some of them are charging as high as 10,000 kwacha, 6,000, 7,000 per month
Oh, no.
for one child who is addicted. Can any of the average people of us afford such?
No.
So
No.
you find these are just for the elite.
Mhm.
So that is why we are saying prevention is better than cure.
Cure.
Stay away from drug abuse as much as you can.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I love the point you mentioned, because I think the challenge that people have is how do I seek help
Help.
Help. True.
without being incarcerated?
Mhm.
How do I come out clean
Yeah.
without
True.
being in problems?
Mm-hmm.
And I like the fact it's mentioned that once you come out clean and says you say I need help,
Mm-hmm.
then they'll provide help.
Okay.
Yeah, which is a plus for me and on that aspect.
Definitely. We have a full-fledged department that deals with education and counseling,
Okay.
which is you will not even be asked where you get your drugs from. And that in itself is just for assistance purposes.
Okay.
I hope
So-
people are hearing that.
They are.
Feel free to come through to Mr. Kamanga. Yes, Doc, you were saying?
Yeah, and I think there's a question that you had asked earlier. I think I didn't quite tackle it. What causes people to get into addictions? We
Okay.
described what an addiction was or is rather,
Mm-hmm.
but how does one find himself in that?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll highlight a few things. So number one, I would say is Yoseko.
Okay.
Yoseko. So what is Yoseko into? Your
Okay.
peers, what are they engaged into?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was mentioned earlier by the pastor to say, look, we seek approval,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
affirmation,
Mm-hmm.
affection.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so because of that, as we're trying to seek that, we want to do the things that the people who are seeking those things from are doing.
Okay.
So if they're doing them, so
You're
that we
so
don't seem queer, odd, and strange,
Mm-hmm.
we want to be part and parcel of whatever they're doing.
Oh, yeah.
So that's number one, the circle that we are found in.
Mm.
Our upbringing.
Okay.
If I grew up with a mother or father or siblings that drink, that use
Nsunko.
this thing, I'll find it socially acceptable.
Okay. Okay.
In fact, it starts out so neat. No one is hitting each other. No one is doing whatever to each other.
Mm-hmm.
You can be functional,
Mm-hmm.
occupationally, socially, and still doing it. And that's where people want to end, at being socially functional with these drugs.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens that these drugs take you on a roller coaster ride.
Mm-hmm.
There's tolerance of the body.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so your family setup also matters. And also the other thing that people that have low esteem
Mm-hmm.
more likely to go into use
Drugs.
of drugs. They're trying to seek how they can be like the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
People with low self-esteem, okay, people that are depressed,
Mm-hmm.
they are more likely to engage in use of drugs, illicit or the like. People that are and people that are using one form of a drug are likely to start using another
form,
drug.
yes.
Ah, they do combos.
Yes.
Actually, to add to what Doc is saying, sometimes the company, like he's talked about the company that you keep. I mean, even the Bible talks about, bad company corrupts
Good
good
morals.
morals. and
Oh,
things
yeah,
like
oh,
that, yeah. And also the environment in which we are.
Mm-hmm.
Those are some of the key things that we need to watch out for.
Mm-hmm.
This being a Christian program,
True.
Mm-hmm.
sometimes as Christians, we do more of stabbing of our friends
Mm-hmm.
than helping them.
Mm-hmm.
The problem that we have is that when we are gossiping, when we are thinking we are holier than other people, when we begin to magnify the sins of others just because you sin differently from them, that in itself becomes a problem. That is what leads to depression. It leads to issues of somebody being secluded, someone trying to find comfort in other people. I think we need to improve the way in which we are interacting as Christians. Let's find comfort in one another. Let me know that I can go to Kangwa and I'll tell Kangwa something, and it will be held as a secret between the two of us, and he will assist me properly. Normally we have very good advice, but the problem is after advising you, it will be publicized. And that is why people are finding comfort in drunkards. They are finding comforts in drug abusers. And we need to create an environment where people are socially accepted in the spiritual environment in which we are. Please go on, Doc. I felt I needed to say that.
That's very cardinal. That's very cardinal. And also, another reason why people start abusing drugs is because of the conditions that they have.
Okay.
They may have good reasons to start using drugs.
Okay.
Others have
Such as?
Others have got chronic pain syndromes.
Okay.
They are constantly in pain. You will bear with them, in inverted commas. So they are always seeking something that to try and
Ease the
ease the
pain.
pain. And in so doing, some of them get into the trap of addiction.
Oh no.
Yeah. So
Maybe just to amplify on that, there are three types of drugs.
Okay.
There is the ones that are socially accepted, for which you will not be arrested. The ones you can go and buy off the counter, the Panadols, the whatever you can go and get off the counter and you can use. Then there is the ones that are controlled.
Okay.
When he talked about the issue of somebody having pain, if somebody has cancer, they will recommend, I think at a certain point, they'll give that person morphine.
Okay.
Now, morphine by nature is addictive.
Okay.
And you'll find that there are certain people that get addicted to morphine, maybe not because they have cancer, but because they just went into it, they started abusing this particular drug. There are drugs like diazepam. Diazepam is a drug that they can give to you to sleep.
Okay.
But that is a controlled drug. There is no chemist where you should go and just buy it off the counter. You talked about issues of cough syrup, Benylin with codeine. That is a controlled drug which should only be sold to somebody that presents a prescription. So they are controlled drugs, and the reason why they are controlled, the doctors will tell you it's because they know the effects of these drugs, the prolonged effects of use of this particular drug. And then there is those that are illegal, which is where the category of cannabis is. Now, there was talk of legalization of cultivation. It's not yet legalized. Ngatuachita legalize will tell you. We find you with it, we will arrest you. That category of cannabis, heroin, cocaine, ecstasy, and all these drugs, they are in that class. Those are forbidden. There is no reason why you should be found with any of these drugs. They are illegal. So those three categories are different categories of drugs that are there. He talked about pain, some of them relieving pain, some of them, there are different classifications which are there. They are stimulants, drugs that will make you hyper. The drugs that will make you, like want to do things that even you've never done and the like. They will make you hyper. They are depressants. Like, a stimulant, an example is maybe cocaine. It's a stimulant. Excess is a stimulant. There are drugs like alcohol, Benylin with codeine. Those are depressants. They depress the central nervous system and they will make you want to sleep, so to say. And then there are those that will make you want begin to hallucinate. I just walk in here and I think that Chomba wants to kill me. And I can even see her coming with a knife. And yet she doesn't even have a knife. What will be the natural reaction? It will be for me to defend myself because before she can stab
Be
me.
aggressive.
Now, some of these drugs they affect people like that. And when it comes to cannabis, cannabis can feature in any of these.
Okay.
Now, again, not too long ago, I received a call from the Copper Belt
Oh yeah.
from a single parent, a mother
Mhm.
who has raised this young man who is now 19 years old and is into drug abuse.
Mhm.
Now, her explanation was that the previous time he came back, he had abused, according to her, cannabis,
Okay.
and he beat up everyone in the house. And this time, she called me around 19 hours. And when she called, she was saying, he has threatened to kill all of us. Please come and help me.
Oh no.
Now, this is somebody who is in the Copper Belt, in a town where we don't even have an office as the Drug Enforcement Commission.
Oh no.
You can imagine my agony. How do I help
Such
this
a person.
particular
Mhm.
family?
Mhm.
And so, when you're talking of the effects of drug abuse,
Mhm.
the drugs like cannabis, you can't even classify it to say, no, this is a stimulant, this is an hallucinogen, this is a
depressant.
depressant. No,
Mhm.
it is something that affects people differently. That is why,
Okay.
if I was to bring Akamushanga Fikamo here,
Mhm.
and we start from Chomba there, she smokes a bit, next Doc, next myself, next you,
Yeah.
the reaction will be different in the way in which it is going to affect us.
Mhm.
And that is why we are saying that drug abuse is something that is deadly. It's something that is very, very, detrimental to the development of a person, to the development of a family, and a country as a whole.
Doc, I would like you to shed more light. Are there situations where people would want to fake prescriptions in order to abuse drugs? And what do you think can be done in order to stop such habits?
That's a very good question, and yeah, it does happen. One of the things that we normally alerts us or makes us think
Mhm.
or suppose the person is abusing this drug is the person will constantly be coming
Okay.
to seek medical attention, but they'll be very particular.
Okay.
They'll ask for a particular drug
Okay.
by name.
Okay.
They'll come say, I'm in a lot of pain. I'm having this problem.
Mhm.
Give me morphine.
Mm.
You're like, no, even this other drug works. So no. I want this one.
Mm.
You know?
The red
And
flag, eh?
maybe for that situation, you understand they've got a certain question you give them.
Mhm.
But then before you know it, even before the stock that you gave them should ideally run out their back. Okay? Then you start to click in your mind that perhaps this person is what? Is abusing. Sometimes it could be someone else who's using them.
Mhm.
They might have a condition, but then someone else has tapped into their condition.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, themselves they may not be abusing, but someone else has tapped. They're making use of someone's condition to get
Oh, okay. Okay.
a certain drug,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
so yeah, that does happen actually. And so it's as a physician, medical doctor, we try to be aware and look out for such
Mhm.
cues in
Okay.
some of the patients or people that come.
It's funny how our youths out there are tending to abuse even things which are meant to help them out. What effects do these drugs have on our body? Like, what long-term effects can one take, let's say, from too much use of, say, benylin with codeine or morphine, abusing it more than it's supposed to be prescribed? Because that's medicine. Doesn't it help the body in some way? But is it bad? And why is it bad?
I'm sure Doc will look at the, the medical side, what it is doing
Okay.
in the body. For me, I would look at it from the social development of an individual.
Okay.
I don't know if some of you were in school with some people who were abusing drugs.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
where
yeah.
are they now?
We
You'll
don't
find
We
even
that
don't know.
most of them-
We don't know.
you find them that most of them,
Mhm.
the future that was so promising
Mhm.
is instantly curtailed.
Hmm.
And where you have expectations as a parent that this child is going to probably bring some development to our family, you have a problem where this future is curtailed immediately.
Mhm.
So you find the personal development of a person who has gone into drug abuse is affected, it's hindered. Other than that, they begin to affect the family. In that, if somebody is going to go into hard drugs and they start stealing from, like the example I gave of someone coming to steal a TV to go and sell and property in the house, they are affecting the economic situation of the house,
Yes.
of the home in which they are. What is it doing to the community where we are? Most of the compounds in Lusaka and across the country, we are having problems of people being attacked. By 18 hours, 19 hours, you must stop moving because there's a group somewhere that is attacking people and things like that. You are having issues of, GBV, gender-based violence. You are having all these issues that are arising as a result of drug abuse. So it starts from an individual, it goes to the family, it even goes to the community in which they are. And it goes even to affect the economy of the nation in many aspects. And so that is why these issues must be dealt with before they can even begin to blossom.
Yeah.
Powerful.
I love his state on the progression from an individual, community, society at large.
Nation at large.
Yeah, because it's a myth that many people have that my drinking or my use of drugs is my own problem. It shouldn't bother you. But it's a lie. What affects you in that area would definitely spill over to the next person, and it will be a cascade even out to the community. So I think for me, I'll try and look at on the personal level.
Okay.
Drugs in general. So every drug has got good effects and
Bad
effects.
effects.
So let me state from the onset that just about every drug, even the good ones, misused, can become harmful.
The good ones are in a panado.
Yes.
Okay.
But then there are drugs that even in their littlest quantity are outright not good.
Oh no.
Okay? I'm yet to see a drug that is 100% good. But I know those that are almost 100% bad. Yeah, so I think recent research shows, for example, there's no safe, I know this one is debatable, but there's no safe amount of alcohol. I think this was a recent research, but it's debatable.
Okay.
There's no safe amount of cigarette smoke in your body. Okay? There's no safe amount. I know economically it's debatable because
The economy aspect, yeah.
But I think we always had the rule when we're in medical school, if you're not sure of one of the risk factors, just say cigarette smoking. Because cigarette smoking is a risk for many of the diseases. If you're not sure, just say cigarette smoking. The next one will be alcohol. Those are the two questions that you will never be missed when you come to hospital. Cigarette smoking and what? Alcohol. Okay, so most of these drugs have got immediate, intermediate, and late effects. Okay, and depending on the status, are you a man? Are you a female? Are you pregnant? Are you not? The effects may differ.
Okay.
Okay, so generally, now to say the effects would mean I have to pick on certain drugs to give examples.
Okay.
For me to give examples, let me use cigarettes because these are the most socially acceptable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Socially acceptable. Now it's funny that there's a very big print. I don't know if it's very big, but there's a print to say
Tobacco is harmful.
Is harmful to your health. On the tobacco itself.
Yeah.
Poster on the
Yeah.
I don't know if we should do the same to alcohol. Yeah, but it says tobacco is harmful to health. So generally, I picked on tobacco. Tobacco can be smoked, sniffed, can be chewed. The ladies prefer the sniffing and the chewing.
and
Okay.
the
Because-
insertion.
Yeah, and because it's socially not acceptable for a lady to be seen with holding a cigarette.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, but they still want to have the pleasurable effects of it. So they
dopamine,
prefer chewing it, okay, or sniffing it. Now, some of the effects that you're going to have with cigarette smoking, so it's got effects on your respiratory system, on your reproductive system, and cardiovascular, and a lot of other systems. So, for example, for people that smoke, that's there are compounds called phenols.
Mm.
They disrupt that. There are hairs in your lining, that
Mhm.
waft out the mucus.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
those are damaged.
Mm.
So the mucus, you will not be able to waft out the mucus easily.
Mm.
Okay. Then there are things like tar in it. There's nicotine. The nicotine is the addictive part of the cigarette.
Okay.
So nicotine grabs you by the hand, while the rest of other compounds are hitting you to death.
Mm.
Okay. That's just an example. So it affects your cardiovascular system. It reduces the blood. It narrows your arteries. Okay, so it reduces blood flow to your heart.
Mm.
Okay, so you're at the risk of stroke. Stroke that's in the brain. Myocardial infarction. Poor perfusion to your heart. Okay, it causes there's a risk for cervical cancer, a risk for bronchitis, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease.
Okay.
Okay, I could list a lot of them,
Mm.
but those are just a few examples. And even just physically, your nails, your teeth will be tinged with yellow. Your skin will be saggy.
Mm.
You not look very healthy. You have got bad breath.
Mm.
It lowers your immunity, so you're at a high risk of getting infections.
Okay.
In fact, families where they smoke a lot, children are at risk of having frequent infections because there's what you call secondhand smoking, passive
Okay.
smoking.
Yeah.
So that one is also very bad. So you might not be smoking, but you have found people that smoking, you're as good as one who's smoking.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is very bad.
So, Mr. Kamanga, any last words to our viewers out there, as well as you, Doc?
Yeah, thank you very much. Two things. Number one, if you are not in drugs, please stay away. There is nothing you are missing. There is nothing that you are missing out or anything that you can say no, because you are not missing on anything. In fact, you are perfect the way you are. You don't adulterate yourself. Secondly, every abuser comes from a home. Let's strengthen the parenting skills. At Drug Enforcement Commission, we have a program where we train parents on parenting skills. How do you identify a child who has gone into drugs? What are the symptoms? What are the things you'll be able to see about this particular child? And so we have a program where we can walk with you the mile so that you understand what are the signs that you will see. So that once you see these things, if truly they are, they are leading you to a child or a dependent or someone is into drug abuse, then we can come in and offer the counseling services that we have. Please don't wait to be arrested by DEC before you can know the bad effects of drugs. Stop it before we can come and arrest you. Or if you're already into it, come for counseling. We will not arrest you in that instance.
Thank you so much. Doc?
It's something that can be, you can come out of it.
Okay.
You can quit. It's not easy. Like I said, when you want to jump out of a merry-go-round,
Merry-go-round.
you come out dizzy. Withdraw. So in certain instances, we medical personnel have to come in. For people that are trying to stop cigarettes, sometimes we give them alternatives just for a brief period. Yeah. But whatever you do, make sure that you have a safe landing as you come out of it, because you go in back deeper than you were
Yeah.
Okay.
in.
Okay.
So one thing that there's a what we call a habit loop. There's a cue. So I see it, I like it, and I have it. It's a reward. At the end of this habit is a reward. So make sure if you're trying to help someone or trying to help yourself, make sure it's difficult to see,
Okay. Okay.
difficult to obtain.
Okay.
Make sure it's not pleasurable. Make sure it's hard to see, it's hard to obtain, and it's not pleasurable. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Nice. Thank you so much, Mr. Kamanga. Thank you so much, Doc. Viewers, I hope you have learned a lot. From me, your host is goodbye and God bless.